5 points. Actually, before I start the discussion part, I would like to give you a heads up. A very important pointer for you. You will never be able to protect your company, okay, unless you know how to protect yourself. Unless if you know how to apply the security principles on your personal life. Thank you. Unless if you know how to apply the security principles on your personal life, then after that, you will be able to apply the same principles on your organization and company, okay? Of course, we all have our responsibility to protect our children. That's why this discussion panel is very important for you to understand. The 5 discussion points we are going to discuss here are the social media threats and how can we protect ourselves from the social media. The social media is becoming our life right now. You see, the social media is becoming our life. So how can we protect, how can we use this new technology in a very useful way and protect ourselves from the threats? The second discussion point is web and application security and forensics. How to use those 2 tools to secure our web applications. Okay? The third point is cloud and virtualization and how we can use virtual security. It's a new trend in the cloud technology and the virtual technology. How we can use virtual security to secure these new technologies. Everything around us actually is becoming cloud-based. Everything from email to storage on the internet, for example. Even inside the companies, they are starting to use cloud computing. And also the bring your own device concept or the new trend, okay? How we can protect, allow the flexibility and utilize the handheld sets, okay? How to use these handheld sets to serve the services to our employees, for example, inside the company, and how we can give them the flexibility on top of it, security, how to secure this flexibility, okay? And the last point, I kept it to the last point because everything we need to monitor. So the last point is security intelligence, big data, analytics, and also SIM tools. How we can use these 3 tools to monitor everything in order to secure our organizations, even on your personal lives. How you can monitor your infrastructure in your home in order to protect your children and your information stored over there. So I want to give the mic to Mr. Abdulkareem. He will give you 5 minutes talk about these points, and after that we will progress to the next panel member to also give you another 5 minutes as an open talk to you. They want to share their personal opinion, and after finishing all these 5-minute talks, we will open the floor for everybody to ask questions to our members. So welcome, Mr. Abdulkareem.
Thank you very much, Ahmad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues and Nasiba, the event coordinator, for this opportunity. I will be talking about one specific topic out of these 5 topics, which is bring your own device and some of the challenges that any organization, being a financial organization from the field I am in, or any other organizations that may face during implementing bring your own device project. There are so many problems in BYOD when it comes to, especially in these days, employees are forced to work almost 24/7. Problem is, how can they do work unless they access their data or the organization data using their mobile devices, which create another risk on organizations. This data is now stored and kept in a personal device that is out of the control of the organization. This is a serious risk, okay? And there are so many ways of handling this. One of the most important things to start in implementing a BYOD project is to define clearly the ownership of the device and the data. Although the device is owned by the employee or the individual, but the organization data is owned by the organization. So this has to be clearly mentioned and clearly accepted by the individual and employee. Once this is settled, okay, we can go to the next level, which making the employee or individual actually accept the working or the how-to in managing the BOD. One of the things is once the device is owned by the employee, the data is owned by the bank or the organization. This gives the organization the ability to wipe or to control data. This is a very important issue in implementing bring your own device in many areas. Based on my humble personal experience, this creates so much chaos, especially if an employee, for example, leaves an organization, his mobile is wiped, and because of a problem in the wiping operation, the whole mobile goes off, or the whole data is wiped off, even his personal data. Now, these are the things that you need to settle down before going ahead and implementing an actual control. One of the very interesting technologies nowadays that's actually working reasonably well, which is the containment or virtualization of data, where you create a container for the organization data within the mobile. And the organization only controls this container, nothing more, nothing less. And even if you wipe data, you wipe only this container. And the vendor itself, who provides this containment opportunity or solution, can give you assurance that it will not touch personal data. This way, you have transferred the risk of touching personal data of an employee or individual to actual vendor, and you can sign actual contracts on this. This is one of the very important cases that you should take care on while implementing bring your own device. Also, another one is in many cases, or let's hope not many cases, but in few cases, you may face incidents of either data being breached through mobile devices, and you may need to actually investigate an actual breach through investigating the individual mobile devices. So please make sure that your bring your own device policy that the employee or individual has signed or agreed on includes clearly the right for the organization to investigate mobile devices. This is also another point that is really important in this. There are also, last but not least, the standard project management practices in implementing bring your own device that applies also to any other projects. Like, for example, don't go big bang. Implement bring your own device only on a very specific set of people first, and see how, and only limited to specific types of data / applications. And then you can go and enhance. These are applicable to all projects, not only bring your own device. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and that's
quite interesting. We will, of course, bring your own device is a very hot topic and still is a very hot topic. So we will open I'm sure that some of you have some questions. So we'll open the floor for you to ask your questions after we conclude the micro talks prepared by our members. Thank you, Engineer Abdulkareem, for your talk. Our next member is Engineer Suliman Alsamhan. He's the head of Computer Forensics Lab. Quite interesting specialty he has. He will give us also his opinion on our discussion points. So you're very welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First, I would like to thank the organizers and the sponsors for putting together this very excellent event. I work for CERT SA, which is a department in Communication and Information Technology Commission. It is a national advisory center where we provide services to more than 250 constituents from government and private sectors, and that includes also critical infrastructure providers in the country. Our services are awareness services, security monitoring, where we provide the SOC service, early warning for organization. We send general alerts and specific alert for our constituents. We also provide the incident coordination and response, incident analysis, and finally forensic services to law enforcement as per the crime law. If you are not a registered constituent with CERT SA, I encourage you all to contact CERT SA or contact me so we can get you enrolled on CERT SA services. This speech will be based on incidents we as CERT SA handled during the last 12 months. But first, let me recall two important security breaches that happened in the past. First one is the Associated Press agency, news agency security breach. The attackers, they use a massive phishing attack to gain control of the agency Twitter account. The second incident is Apple iCloud security breach. It was a password cracking attack. So we are not talking here about a very complicated attack as an idea, but the effect is great. I will talk now about two factors when you calculate risk, which is the threats and vulnerability. And I will let you all, as a security professional, calculate the risk itself. First, the threat. So when we are talking about national security or security for individual organizations who carry out these attacks, we talk about state-affiliated groups, spying agencies or intelligence or cyber armies. We talk about organized crime group, activists like Anonymous, unaffiliated groups. We have many unaffiliated groups in the country who attack websites for the government. So what are we looking for? We have spying operation, cyber warfare. We have some groups interested in financial return, like the organized crime groups. Damage to the economy, industrial espionage. What we found during the past that organizations are hacked or they have security breach, and for years they don't know about it. Because the group who carry out the attack, they don't want the organization to know that they have access. These groups, they propagate more risks inside the victim infrastructure, like propagating malware to gain more control and being able to steal information from the organization. That has a great national security effect, of course. Now the vulnerability. Most of the attacks that we handled came from two vulnerabilities that the organization suffered from. First, the people, which is the weakest link in the security chain. Social engineering is the art of exploiting people. and you cannot prevent people from providing their information to the attacker. So what we have seen during the past 2 months, a huge amount of email phishing attacks, and also phishing using social networks, where the attacker he tweets URLs of interesting topics. The victims will follow these URLs, and of course they will end up on a phishing website. One of them, for example, was a YouTube phishing website, and it asks the visitor to submit their YouTube account and password for age verification, for them to be able to view adulterated content. These are not sophisticated attacks, but it works. Second is the application vulnerabilities. Most organizations and most security professionals, they know how to protect their infrastructure from network and system point of view. But what about the application itself? Is it a off-the-shelf application? Do they understand how to publish this application on the internet? I have seen some organizations, they publish the administration resources of this application on the internet, which of course allows the attacker to easily exploit the system. Second, developing the application internally. Do they use a secure programming practices? For example, some of them, they allow these client-side checks and input validation using JavaScripts. They allow SQL injections. These are big no's when you are programming an application. Finally, with all these emerging technologies, do you have the ability to respond to security incidents, to collect information that has relation with the incident itself? Do you have the procedures, the knowledge, the tools to collect the evidence and proceed with the legal proceedings? Thank you again, and I hope you get some useful information from this speech.
Of course, it's very important to preserve the evidence in order to enable forensic specialists to handle the case and discover who's behind the incident. If you're not collecting the logs inside your organization and not protecting the IT asset inside your organization, you're allowing thieves to take the asset outside, you'll never be able to conduct forensics at the end and discover what happened on the IT or technology level. So thank you, Engineer Suliman, for the interesting talk. Our next member is Dr. Zaidan Alanazy. He's in the National Cybersecurity Center in the Ministry of Interior. Of course, they play a very important role in keeping us secure on the national level, of course. So you are very welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Ahmad. Assalamu alaikum, and good morning, everybody. The topic that I would like to share with you is the importance of the big data analytics, which is a very important element of any cybersecurity system. Organizations, especially the big CNIs, the critical national infrastructures. We're talking about national grid companies, we're talking about national banks, or banks with very large national footprint in any country. We're talking about aviation, airplanes, airplane companies, oil and gas. There is a lot of information, a lot of data about especially the malicious activities going on in the whole cyber space. And nowadays, we're moving toward what's so-called the cloud. And personally, my own conviction, I believe in cloud will be the way to go because of the economies of scale. Cloud computing or cloud services will be the cheapest, the most affordable, the easiest, the most flexible way of doing business. And the internet is becoming the huge super computing power where everybody is connecting to. Now, adding on this is the proliferation of the mobile devices. 10 years ago, mobile technology was very limited on voice communication. Nowadays, we have smartphones on the hands of everybody. Now we have a big talk about the Internet of Things. Not just only smartphones, but every single device, every single function around you, every single machine has a chip in it that is connected to the internet. Your TV, your appliances, your phone, and everything. So this will generate a huge amount of data in the cloud. So organizations actually, it's very imperative, very important to them to employ big data analytics, to go into these kind of raw data, raw information, and crunch it, and do a lot of correlation between the different sources of data, and then come out with some intelligent, information. Who is attacking your organization? Who is after what kind of information about your employees, for example? We all have LinkedIn accounts or social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook. Especially the email addresses become very standard. So for a hacker to go and penetrate a network, it will take them a few probably employees with their names and the organization and start to play like a phishing attack. It becomes very easy. So companies have to employ intelligent, smarter than the usual. Go think outside the box. Implementing policies is very important, but implementing intelligent solutions is more important because it will give you the intelligence, it will give you the edge over who is attacking your network. Sometimes your network has been scanned, some information has been scanned, you have no idea. But implementing technologies like big data will give you a little bit of edge, will give you the luxury of looking into the correlation. That information might lead to, for example, a phishing attack or a DDoS attack, and this will give you that intelligence, will give you the information ahead of time, so you become more proactive in taking the necessary measures and actions to prevent or at least to mitigate any potential attack. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zaidan. Quite interesting. If you ask me a question, how big companies, multinational companies, international companies are surviving attacks on the internet or threats coming from the cyberspace, the answer is very easy but very hard to implement. It's actually they monitor for security intelligence. They know their weaknesses and they monitor the hackers on the internet or the cyber criminal groups or other state-sponsored groups. They know their attackers and they know their weaknesses, therefore they can survive these threats. So they have a special organization specialized in monitoring, going under the ground in the internet and monitor this dark area for threats coming to these companies. So it's very important, and I actually commend Dr. Zaidan for his talk on that. Our final member is Engineer Abdulkareem Sayed. He's an architect, a security architect from IBM. He will give us a very interesting micro talk from IBM perspective. So you are welcome, Engineer.
Thank you all for joining this morning, and thank everybody for attending, and thanks for all the sponsors for making this event possible. And thank my fellow panelists on their talks. I just wanted to focus on and actually hopefully try to bring together some of the things that were mentioned today in regards to cloud, analytics, mobility, and social, and possibly just take two of those particular pieces when we're looking at, for example, social, and what is actually happening in regards to social media and social media security. This is some of the topics that are really emerging in the markets today, that we see that we don't have a true standard that's out there in regards to social media and how to attack those things and how to actually implement a baseline in regards to how our organizations are dealing with social media. What we find is we find a lot of organizations taking social and taking technologies and trying to implement them, but not having a lot of the standards and regulations and the policies to support it. As what previously was mentioned, the human element is the biggest risk, right? So what we have is you have a lot of organizations that have that have tons of people working there, and as we know, the biggest Twitter penetration in the world right now is KSA. So what we found is what we found is previously, when we looked at organizations that have this sort of penetration, and what are they doing to actually protect themselves in regards to how data is being leaked from the organization to the outside world. So there's various topics that we've taken into account. We've looked at it from a functional aspect. We've looked at it from a technical aspect. So if we're looking at it from a functional aspect, some of the policies and the procedures, some of the process workflows, some of the access types, and the awareness that's given to the actual employees of what can be said outside the organization and what has to be kept within the organization, and what are some of the ramifications that those employees will face if they went outside and broke some of those policies. On the technical aspect it comes from the awareness itself, and ensuring that two-factor authentication, for example, is used on their accounts, and protecting the organization's Facebooks, Twitters, etc. And last but not least, in trying to bring that together in regards to how the convergence of the security information and event management tools and the big data tools, and actually how you can produce intelligent data from that. So bringing those two together and enabling a true intelligent data piece is very, very important. So you're able to take the general security event management daily information that you're seeing, and coincide it with the big data pieces and the true intelligence that is coming out of that. So,
Thank you very much, Engineer Abdulkareem, for the interesting talk. We have now 22 minutes opened for your questions. As a starter, I would like to ask Dr. Zaidan two questions regarding intelligence and also social media. So the first question is how corporates and even governments can protect against phishing targeting social media accounts, knowing that all the employees have social media accounts. So it's actually expected to have phishing through these social media to these employees in an attempt to steal information, of course, and access the network.
One of the effective tools is probably we touched on yesterday is awareness. I'm aware of a company here in the kingdom where they go and do a lot of simulate a phishing attack on the employees. So they send an email that is fake, whether to the managers or to the professionals, simulating somebody asking for data. Or, for example, this is the corporate security department. You have made a violation yesterday. You have this, you need to log in again. And whenever an employee clicks on that link, it goes back into a registry, and then they collect the employees and start to raise the awareness. So awareness is very important. We are, as been highlighted by my colleague, Umar, the weakest link is the human. So we as a human sometimes become the victim of the whole cybersecurity chain in a way that we take it easy to click on any link that comes to us, whether through social media, a picture. I don't take the proper, simple action. Is this coming from somebody I know? Well, does that person usually send me those kind of links? Do I get this usually? Is that a website that is known? Is it kind of a legitimate website? Or it is, I would start clicking on every single message that comes to me, whether from somebody I know or I don't know. So I think the awareness, whether through corporate or national programs, or even the individual awareness, you are protecting, by the end of the day, your own asset. Your cell phone, your smartphone. It has all your information, personal information, your pictures, your videos, probably your personal data, your usernames and passwords. So you need to even feel more alert to it than your company coming to you and asking you to take proper action. So I think the awareness is a critical, very effective tool in that regard.
Ahmad.
Yes, go ahead.
And if you allow me, I will add one more point, which is now if we evaluate the authentication, most organizations, we found out that it is one-factor authentication, which is the password. It is very important now to implement two-factor authentication for organizations, or at least for privileged users. Because relying on passwords with the current risks that we are seeing in environments is very weak. Second, there is now a focus from the government agencies and the top providers on the country to establish their social network identity. And in the last year, we heard about security breaches of Twitter accounts for government agencies, which will raise the question how good these government agencies are protecting their identity on the social networks. One important thing is to get their accounts verified, enable the second factor authentication for their account, making sure that no third-party access is allowed to their account, or enabling external organization to manage that account without verifying the whole security process, and without making sure that the people who manage the account use proper procedures to protect the account.
Going again, of course, if you have all the security controls in place without securing the human himself, the human will bypass all these security controls. Without having a policy, without educating your employees on this policy, give them proper awareness sessions, okay, and measure their awareness even by questionnaire, you will never be able to complete the security circle. Actually, if you blend inside the social media, and I'm being very, very frank and very honest, the last thing, if you have a picture in front of you or a video clip, the last thing you will be thinking about is trust. You just want to click it and see it, to be honest. So the only thing to do here is actually to give this human the awareness, okay? And I'm coming back to my first point, which is the heads up. I told you if you don't know how to protect your children, how to protect your home, you will never understand the threats in your organization and how to protect them. So these handheld sets are your bring your own device inside home, for your home, for example. The intelligence, security intelligence is actually by keeping yourself up to date with your children, which websites they are visiting, and so on, for example, and monitoring. There are security providers who provide you one solution for all, for PC, laptop, Mac, iPhone, Android, any device. So I would like to give the chance to you, my friends, for any question. Yes, go ahead.
Hasnain from Abu Nayan. My question is to the panel, specifically to Mr. Abdulkareem. As you rightly started with talking about the fact that policies, governance frameworks should be established. Perhaps in quite many organizations it is there, along with awareness workshops and things like that. However, as Dr. Zaidan also said, that the weakest link is the human. People tend to not comply with the policies and the frameworks. However, and I'm sure most of the people may have experienced that violations and non-compliance happen. What is missing is the penalization, exercising the penalization clause, that if the breach happens, then what? The concept of carrot and stick, perhaps. Why I'm putting this question to Mr. Abdulkareem is perhaps you're coming from a financial industry. You may have stories that you may or may not be able to share at this forum of how this is exercised. However, in less sensitive organizations, perhaps private sectors, SMEs, exercising this kind of clause is a bit tricky, a bit difficult. What is your take on that?
It all goes to, of course, to the power you have as an organization on the employee behavior, okay, or on the effect of the employee behavior. So if you have very, very strong legal binding, okay, or a very strong contract in the first place, then you can react as an organization to whatever bad behavior employee has done. But now the trick question comes in, how can you build this strong contract? Okay, this is where probably practice and experience comes into hand. Unfortunately, organizations with history of internal problems tends to have very strong legally binding contracts with their employees, and they actually can go to courts and penalize their employees legally, officially. But again, it's a two-edged sword. Okay, if you have very strong legally binding contract, you may end up not giving your employee enough flexibility, okay, to do their work, or you are giving them some, actually, you are hindering their work in many cases to this. So you have to waive your options. This is where probably good practice of risk management comes in place, okay? And you give this to someone who can waive the risk of the power of employee versus the value. The risk of employee versus the value of the employee. So it's always a two-edged sword, and there is no solution fit all, definitely, in these cases.
If you allow me, Engineer Abdulkareem, if you, in my humble opinion, if you make the contract too stiff, too scary, you actually will scare the employees away, the new recruits to your organization. However, if we take Google example, or the new companies who's adopting the social media, for example, inside their organization, they're allowing their employees to socialize inside. They have huge flexibility. Actually, most of the employees or programmers or geeks, they consider their office is their home, actually. How, it's really something we need to stop and think about it. How can they provide this huge flexibility while maintaining security? So anyone from my members want to comment on this?
Yeah, just one comment in regards to, I think it all is also dependent upon what is the actual impact to the organization. So if we're looking at it from a social media aspect and we're taking a potential data breach that could happen to that organization, then if it was really impactful, they could potentially be taken to court under e-crime laws and be charged independent upon the impact of that organization. So if I guess the trick there is actually measuring what is the actual impact. So if the impact was brand equity, it's going to be much more difficult to actually to measure. But if it was direct financial loss that's happened to an organization, I think they would have potential clout to take it to a government or to take it to the judicial system and charge them. And with that being said, if you're looking at if it was done to for example, critical national infrastructure, and you're putting the nation at risk, then there's going to be laws to protect that. Very similarly, if there is any type of financial loss there, so I think it's looked at in different potentially different scenarios.
Very interesting. It's actually from another point of view, it's excellence. Ihsan. Islam is based on ihsan. And our religion, alhamdulillah, is covering excellence, and it's coming from the excellence point of view. So there's also information security excellence, where you excel in information security. The whole idea of information security is a simple concept. If you apply it correctly and simply, you make it simple for your employees, it will succeed. If you make it very hard to follow, nobody will actually follow it. Maybe they will hate you for making it very, very difficult. So, any other questions? Yes.
Hello, good day, gentlemen. I guess my question is intertwined between social media and BOIOD. I guess our human tendency is that you try to get away from the actual information of what you want in some way or other, right? So, like for example, first we generally in our corporate environment, we try to block your social media access. For what reasons? Is that for privacy or is that for security concerns? So let's say, okay, now it's being blocked, and there comes the BOIOD. So are you still going to block your Twitters, your LinkedIns and Facebooks, even on your company-held mobile devices? So what's the point? So my point is that, like, let's say in the Western countries, like for example, Ahmad also mentioned that Google or some companies do allow access completely and make the flexibility of the users to obtain. Even there are business benefits from that kind of websites as well. So is that our general sense? Is that are we afraid that people are misutilizing the resources? Or is that our general concern? Because ultimately, the users will get what they want. Maybe it's not the right way to put, but you have the mobile devices where the productivity is also getting lost, right? So, and ultimately, that's where your phishings and all those aspects comes in place from your mobile devices. Then it leads to your corporate devices. So, what's your take on leaving the people to allow such kind of resources on the corporate network? I know our community is in such kind of restrictive mode that we generally do not accept such kind of best practices, you could say, and just go and block it immediately on everything.
Yes. Very interesting points. Let me take the first one. So, social media is very important for the business, we know that. However, there's some threats, and we know that these threats can come in if we, inside the company, if we allow the employees to access social media through the corporate network. However, the most important thing, do you trust the employee, and what is he sharing through his social media? This is the first point. The second point, which is I want my members and colleagues to comment on, is actually to break the encryption and look inside the traffic and make sure nothing is leaving the corporate. It's our responsibility as security specialists to do this, actually. And on the national level, it's called lawful interception. Also, countries or governments wants to protect their cyber borders, okay? So, to my colleagues, what do you think, how can companies monitor social media? Is it an option to just block the social media completely? I know some companies are doing that. And is there any other way to allow social media inside the company and also secure it? Go ahead.
If you allow me, now we have to balance the risk and the benefit from this social media. You all heard about the quantum insert attack, which is a targeting attack. The problem is this privileged user, whether he's an administration for a system or a network or an application, he visits social media websites. And some spying agencies, intelligence agencies, they infect the machine. They target this user because he identified himself in LinkedIn or on Twitter or on whatever. This user now will bring the device inside the organization to manage the network or the systems. And then this systems that he's managing will be infected. This is a huge risk. Now we are talking about a huge risk for the telecom company, which was the case, and for the national interest. Can we compromise that for the benefit of the user? I don't think so. We need to look for another measures. For example, any privileged user, he can't use the machine, the administration machine that he works daily to manage the system, to access social media. This big no. You want to do that, you can do it in your personal computer, on your mobile, on your handheld. Now we have eliminated a huge part of the risk. Still, as Ahmad said, maybe the information leakage or something is still there. But at least those kind of targeting attacks with huge damage for the organization can be eliminated with controls over the machines, on policies, awareness, and such things.
Excellent. Dr. Zaidan?
Usual control doesn't really play a very major role. It's not been successful. And I think the most important thing, if we think about cybersecurity, the basic of cybersecurity, we see that the attackers know about us more than we know about them. They know about our techniques, how we serve the web, what kind of behavior we have over the internet, even accessing our business accounts, more than we know as individuals, organizations, and even government, how those people attack us. So I think if governments or organizations try to put a lot of control on how to use or regulate the internet or regulate the use of the internet within the organization itself or a national scale, I think this will not be an easy option to do because scalability issue. Now you have more people, more applications in the future. You need to put a lot of control. Financially, economically, it will be a little bit kind of difficult. So the most important thing, I guess, if we want to walk out, today, is for organizations to spend more on the awareness of their own people, not just how to use the machine, how the attackers, how they can be hacked, how people can be socially engineered to give away their own usernames and passwords and personal data and information. Probably you see in social network, we give our names, photos, where we go, who we are with, which restaurant, which place which movie theater, what we are doing at the moment. We do it for free. We give it to the social media. There is no control over that. So the best thing is, I would like to see individuals on an individual basis to know exactly how the attackers would hack into their information. Organizations need to know how attackers will come to their organizations and raise their awareness and become more of dynamic organization than just control-based organization.
Quite interesting. I think we will conclude our discussion panel. However, if you have any more questions, you can find us around. We'll still be here. So if you have any question, please approach us and give us your question. We will be very happy to answer you and to help you. So thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا.